democracy, there's always someone listening. They're rigging the elections, planning riots for the citizens. The government has always lied, it's history repeating. But the problem is the schools dumb you down so you believe them. If you try to speak the truth inside a tweet, then they delete it. Whole administration Satanists who claim they praise in Jesus. Every year there's a new name for enemies that we're facing. It's Al-Qaeda, then ISIS, and now American patriots. Who would have thought those who love the country the most would be hated on by folks who call America home? Both political parties are equally just as evil. They've been working for themselves, don't give a damn about the people. Black, white, yellow, brown, humanity needs you. Cause united we stand, divided they will defeat you. The man on the news says the problem is me. I'm just a small town boy with big American dreams. The world's going crazy and they lying to us. Don't know who to believe, so in God we trust.
Y'all missing what was written in them pages. That was history they wrote, now you wanna change it. You racist, you hate this. Why you want us all to be locked up in cages? I can't stand the left, everything they say's depressing. Ship them to the Middle East, they can learn oppression. Believe me, I mean this quite literal. I love liberty, but I hate white liberals. Wear a mask, stay home, complain and moan. Talk about privilege on your phone in your Range Rover, Starbucks, mango, foo-foo.
All right, here we go again. For all you early morning cats out there, I've been putting this one together for a little while. We'll see how it turns out here. Anyway, what we're going to talk about tonight is an issue that affects most of us, and I think it's affected us, a little less as of recently, just because I don't think as many of us have been traveling around as much. Not everybody's like my boy Pook that used to just travel all over the place and everything like that. But what's up, Pook? Anyways, we're going to talk about the TSA a little bit. And I know I've touched on this a time or two. But we're going to go back to the whole start of this thing. All right. Obviously, everybody remembers where they were at on 9/11. It's hard to believe that somebody who was born then is now, damn near 21 years old. Pretty crazy. Pretty bizarre. I remember like yesterday. It's like if you asked my dad about the JFK assassination, he can tell you exactly what day it happened, where he was at, everything. Just like with 9/11. Any of y'all that were out there, that are my age, old ass fossils, you know exactly where you're at. So anyway, it was, I believe it was November 19th of that year that, Congress went nuts. You had Tom Daschle up there saying that if we're going to secure the airports, then we got to federalize it. And that became the beginning of the TSA. Prior to that, a guy named Frank Agent Bright owned Argent Bright owned Argent Bright Security, and they were working security at the airports where the hijackers boarded on 9/11. So that guy, apparently the company, from what I've read, they were found to be guilty of, or they charged him with 13 federal violations. I personally remember my first dealing with the TSA thing. I would fly to Reno like every weekend. And I want to say when they implemented it happened after, I think I flew out of Seattle, and I would always just pay cash for my ticket, right? And I do not do checked bag. I don't do checked baggage, folks. I don't do it. It's just a pet peeve of mine. If I'm going someplace, I have a bag that's set up for 1 week. And if I got to go do laundry, then I go do a load of laundry. But I don't ever check bags. And I think it goes back to, like the 90s. I lost a nice camera and a bunch of stuff out of one of my suitcases flying from Portland back here to Wyoming. And after that, I was like, no. I mean, I got off and I got my bag and it was coming around the carousel and the thing was just tore back. Bunch of my shit's missing. I go to complain. They're like, and that's before TSA. So anyway, But I remember, I think it was I think they implemented it. I'd flown out and then I was flying back, if I remember right. And I'd flown a person, a female down there to meet me and hang out for the weekend. That was my example of a first date. Puerto Rico suave at me, huh? I said, you want to go out sometime? And I called her, said, go to the airport. There'll be a ticket there at the counter waiting for you. So we were going back, and it was a morning flight. I think we were going from Reno to Oakland and back up to Seattle to SeaTac. And, we'd had one of our nights. And I was, I don't even know, we were probably, who knows, probably up all night. All I know is I'd already had a few cocktails in me, and we're going in, and there's National Guards everywhere. And they're all toting firearms. I'm like, oh, shit. They ain't playing around no more. And so we get in. And back then, it wasn't a big deal. I would just go up to I never even bought round trip because I didn't know I was coming back. So I just go up to the Southwest ticket counter. And I'm like, yeah, I need two one-ways to Seattle. Grabbed her ID, my ID, gave the lady the cash. We both just had carry-ons. And, they're like, and then, because right then, that was like one of the big things about somebody paying cash the day of with no check baggage, And so we go, and typically at that airport, you just go right up the stairs and you go through just easy on. You start going up the stairs or whatever. The line is backed up all the way down the hall and coming down the stairs. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? And you got National Guard everywhere, and these guys got serious looks on their face and shit. And it's just like, well, and I remember we got up there and we kind of turned the corner. I could see the checkpoint, and they had this guy that was, nobody was used to taking shoes off and belts and shit like that. And okay, this guy, he had a developmental disability of some sort. He either had Down syndrome or he had something else. I don't know what it was, but he was unintelligible. He looked like the guy off Trailer Park Boys. What's the guy's name? Bubbles. And he's screaming at people. He's getting more angry because people can't understand him. And people are going, what? What do you want us to do? Huh? We got to do what? It was a complete clusterfuck. And you got guys with guns. I was like, what country are we in? Where are we? And so me, being the smart guy that I am, I start singing a song in my Cartman voice. He can take a muslin, fill his head with poo, and the tiny man can. Because I think it's funny. As the girl's like grabbed me by the elbow, she's like, stop it. She's like, this isn't funny. I'm like, this is funny. What the fuck? I said, listen, this guy up here screaming at people. No one can understand him. And I said, and what are we doing here? We got to take our shoes off. Apparently, I'm looking around. I'm like talking to people in the line. I'm like, what is this? And they're like, I don't know. Looks like we got to take our shoes and shit. I'm like, God damn it, And it took us forever to get to that line. And that poor man, he shouldn't have been in that position. They put him in a bad spot. I didn't want. It was it was low hanging fruit to make fun of. I didn't want to make fun of the guy because I kind of felt bad for him because he was trying to do what he was told, and I'm sure it seemed just as crazy and odd to him. But that was like the start of the TSA. So I don't know if he worked for a private security company and then they just moved the TSA over. I don't know how all those transformations worked, how the hiring process went or whatever. But that was the whole start of a whole new era when it came to travel. It used to be not that big of a deal. People without a ticket. Your significant other could walk through with you and walk you up to your gate. Say, see you later, give you a hug and a kiss, goodbye. Nobody even thought anything of it. If like the last time I flew my daughter back to Washington, I had to get a gate pass and go through all sorts of shit just to take her through to to the gate. I mean, it was like, what in the hell? So anyway, I don't know why I thought about this today, but I just thought, you know what, I'm going to do a little discussion about this, because here's my take on TSA. And if you happen to work for TSA, this isn't personal, and I'm sorry. Okay, I'm not coming at anybody personally here, but this is what happens when you put the government in charge of something. Okay. The last time that I did take my daughter back, right, I had to take her to Bozeman because I couldn't get her on a flight out of Billings. I couldn't get her on one out of Cody. It was right after Christmas and whatever, and it was just like, it was an impossibility. So I got to drive her the 3.5 hours or whatever up there. And it was, it was ridiculous. We get up there, and I've got to go to like some special line to get a gate pass. And then we get up there, and it's not a big airport. Bozeman's not a big airport. I mean, Cody's a really small airport. Bozeman's bigger than Cody, obviously, but it's, they have straight shots, I think, to LA and Chicago, and, it's obviously a little bit bigger. It's a bigger city, and it's a lot more popular, too, because everybody got to go to the Bozone. So, we get up there, and there's a line backed up, and I'm like looking around, and I'm like, what in the hell's going on here? And I'm looking, and there's one little checkpoint open. They didn't even have a pre-check there, which we'll get into that whole thing. We're sitting there forever, and I'm looking around, and I start counting the blue shirts. I counted 23 people for one TSA lane, just one. And there was one female that was working like the x-ray thing and telling people what to do. The rest of these people were just standing around. 23 people. How much money is that costing? You wonder why your airline ticket is so much? You got 23 people standing. I mean, come on, let's run this shit like the Golden Corral. You know what I'm saying? You hire a grocery store bag boy to run the trays back when they're getting low on one end. I mean, you have somebody on the x-ray, and maybe you have somebody up front. And it's like that everywhere you go. I mean, Seattle's the same, Denver's, any place. The only place that I've flown that hasn't been a complete mess, and somehow this city managed to not make a mess out of this, is San Francisco. They've made a mess out of everything else. But what they did do was they somehow managed to keep a private security company running the checkpoints there. They're nice. It's easy. They move you through. And they've kind of adopted more of like Israeli security at the airport. They learn how to they spot signs with people. So they learn how to read people. And they learn the questions to ask. So instead of getting all crazy about all these little technicalities, these people understand how to, their security, they understand what they're looking for when they ask you a question. I mean, it's just like a lie detector test, right? When you do a lie detector test, it starts off with what basically they want to see what you're at a base level. And you can put this into any kind of, reading body language. Like you start off a conversation with somebody. What's your name? Hey, how you doing? I'm Mike. What's your name? They're comfortable. Oh, hey, I'm such and such. Oh, hey, right. Hey, good to meet you. Where are you from? Oh, I'm from Louisville. Oh, Louisville, Kentucky. And you say, yeah, I heard you guys don't like it when they call it Louisville, just like somebody from Boise. I heard you guys don't like it when people say Boise, or like Nevada. I lived in Nevada, and you don't say Nevada, just so everybody knows. It's Nevada. Just like Boise is Boise. It's not Boise. There's no Z. People get real in their feelings about that. But you ask them a couple easy questions, right? Something that makes somebody feel comfortable. You take note of the way they behave. They're at a comfortable place, you know, no nervousness. Well, then you ask a question that, you know, might put somebody on edge. You know, like, hey, you wouldn't know anything about, you know, all that money that got taken from such and such place or whatever, you know, and then all of a sudden, and that's when you can tell. So that's how these people should be trained is with those type of tactics. I feel, I mean, how many times have you been through TSA? And I mean, I can tell you right now, I mean, I flew in and out of Cody quite a bit, you know, before the COVID thing. I haven't flown since. But I mean, I used to be on a plane almost on a weekly basis. And there was 2 people, I think, over there in this tiny little airport here that were awesome. But then they had these like my ex-wife was a fucking supervisor at that airport. There's 1 gate. There's 2 airlines in the summertime. You got United, Delta, and SkyWest Airlines. They operate the airport, and their people, they run ticket counter for Delta and United. And there's only 2 counters. There's only 1 gate, and there's only 1 flight coming and going at a time. And it's funny as hell because as soon as they open that thing, everybody in that air, they all bum rush that gate. They line up. I was like, you're not going to miss your flight. You're not going to miss it. You just go through here. So we're going through one day, and I can't remember where we were flying to. I think we might have been going to like Birmingham or something. And, you know, we see the lady that we always deal with. She's, you know, recognizes, still got to give her the ID. She knows. I mean, at the time, my wife worked there at the time. I mean, it's like, you know, it was just a formality more so than anything. So when we put our bags and, you know, do the shoes and the tray and everything. And I mean, like, whenever I fly, I've got my shoes off and my belt in my hand before I get to the trays. Like, I'm ready. I've taken my wallet. I've put it in my bag. I only take a carry-on. It's in my bag. My watch is in my bag. Any change, my keys. My bag's got a little loop inside the side thing that I just clip when I travel, I just clip my keys with the carabiner on there. That way I don't have to worry about them. I know when I get back and I get off the airplane, I'm going to my truck. I know exactly where my keys are going to be. Because why do I need them? If I'm I don't got a car no more. I mean, so we're ready to go. Always. I mean, we'd go through and we knew we flew enough. I mean, it was you know, and it never fails. You get behind you get behind the lady that's got the stack, you know, the stack of bags where she's got like fucking 6 of these things and a purse and the shit everywhere. And gets up there and then starts fumbling around with those fucking trays, man. And she's got laptops and tablets and phones and shit everywhere. And, you know, and toiletries that are in inadequate amounts, which is something we never would have thought of before was the toilet. And usually a bottle of water, too, that she wants to throw a fit about having to throw away. Now it seems kind of silly, but it's what we've had to get used to. And it's amazing how we've kind of institutionalized ourselves to become acclimated to this type of a deal. However, when you do it so often, it's just what you do, and you get used to it. I mean, I'm always ready. I mean, I get up there, literally, it takes me the time to grab the bin, to throw my shoes, my belt, and my bag on the conveyor. I go through, stand at the thing, I get done, I turn around, and I hold my hair up behind me, because every single time, it shows something on the center of my back, right where my hair falls down, and they want to feel my hair to make sure that, like, I don't know what I'm going to put in my hair, but so I'm just used to it. And they're always looking at me like, "Whoa, how'd you know?" I'm like, "Because it happens every time," you know. And I mean, I'm going through, and as I'm going down the conveyor waiting for my stuff, I mean, one tub comes out. I always put my shoes in my belt first, so that comes out. I'm putting on my belt. I'm sliding on my shoes. I don't tie them right there. Grabbing my bag, you know, if I'm wearing shoes, you know, or if I'm wearing, you know, most of the time I got cowboy boots on and I just slide my feet in and off I go while everybody else is sitting there putting themselves back together. I mean, I'll leave my belt hanging off my belt loop and, go cinch everything up when I sit down, but it never fails. You get behind that lady. Or there's the dudes like that too. I'm not just singling out the females, but that's more typical. But there are also those dudes that you get behind too. That are just like, oh my God, this guy. It's like, well, I mean, the security screen, that's what they should be telling these people. It's like, dude, you got 6 carry-ons, dog. You can't take all this shit. You need to, toodaloo. I mean, it's just absolute craziness. And you know that 95% of the people, there's people that are hired to take things through those lines. 95% of them make it through with whatever they're carrying. Now, I can safely tell you this, and I have no hesitation in telling you this. If anybody were to try and pull the shit that they pulled back then in 2001, the way they did it, look what happened to the shoe bomber. That guy, did TSA get him? No. Who got him? Passengers got him. Same with the diaper guy. Passengers got him. That Richard Reed, he's doing a life sentence. I think he's down there in Florence, Colorado at the max. I bet he's loving that. He's probably all PC'd up. I'm sure. It's amazing he's even made it. I think he's at the USP of the Supermax down there. That's some rough shit, but so I mean, and so one could say, potentially one could, everybody said, well, they haven't caught anybody because it works. Well, I mean, that's an argument that you could make. However, when you say that 95% of the people that have attempted to take things through that I know a guy, that's his job. And he's Middle Eastern. And it's funny listening to him talk about what happens when they do catch him, which he said very hardly ever happens, but he's had to talk these guys down and like, hey, hold on. Here's my credentials. This is what I do. Good job. You got me, And, they don't believe him for a while, but I made a mistake one day, and I think I was going through SeaTac, and it happened to be one of those days where the line was, I'd gone and I looked at it and I was like, oh, I got time to go use the restroom. And I did that and I walked in the bookstore or something there. And then all of a sudden I look up and the line is like going like, God, fucking stupid phone. I need to start remembering to turn this thing off too. Anyway, the line is just going through the turnstiles like crazy. And I'm like, Jesus. So I go get in the line and I'm sitting there forever. And I got people in wheelchairs in front of me. I, of course, have the passenger with the 6 bags. People that don't know when they get up to the podium that they're supposed to have their ID and their boarding pass, or at least have the thing on their phone. It's a complete amateur hour. And I get up there, and as I'm going through the turnstile, I can hear the guy, because you've got the people at the turnstile. They only had one person at the turnstile. They only had 2 lanes open. When there was possible like 6 or 7 of them going into, I think, the B terminal. And the same guy, God damn, that stupid thing keeps going off. Anyway, the guy he's the town crier, the village idiot. He's the one that's sitting there. He's on spin cycle, and I know how that goes because I used to work. If you ever worked on a chairlift, like I worked up at Mount Hood, and we had that Alpine slide up there, and to get people off that chairlift was kind of a bitch because the chair, it kept going, but we'd have to detension, and it would drop down to a landing where people would get on the Alpine slide. Which, for those who don't know, it's a half-mile track, and they're basically 2 concrete, like a bobsled track. And so people are coming up on a double chair. There's a safety bar on the front of the chair. They got to drop down. They land on a platform. There's a big yellow line that we got painted with 2 arrows going on each side. So the people on the chair, they got to get off and they got to step to each side, wait for the chair to go by. But then they have the sleds because you got to get the sleds back up. So then they've got the sleds on the back of the thing. And most of the safety bars don't work. right? So they're supposed to be on springs where they just flip up, but half of them don't work. And so you're holding on to that and trying to get these people off, and that chair is moving. And so you go to the end of the deck, right? So you're like 20 feet off the ground at the end of the deck, and the people are coming in the chairlift. And it's like every 10 seconds you got a chair. So you're like, ladies and gentlemen, here's what we're going to do. We're going to wait for the yellow line. I want each of you to step off to each side of your chair, follow the yellow line and the arrows, wait for the chair to pass you by. I'm going to grab your sleds, throw them down the conveyor. Once the chair is clear, please proceed down the dashed yellow line to the starting area. They'll get you set up with the sled, helmets, everything you need down there. Every 10 seconds. So I understand what it's like to have to sit there and just repeat yourself all day. It gets old. And 95% of the general population are morons too. They don't read signs. If they do read signs, they don't think it applies to them. Like they'll be on a chairlift, for example, and you go by a lift tower and it says, no bouncing the chair. And they're sitting there going like this, and you hit the slow button and they get off and you hit the stop button and you go, look, idiot. See what you're riding on up there, dummy? It's like, you see those wheels up on that tower? It's like, those are called the shivs. Not like a prison, they're called the shivs. There's nothing holding that cable, that haul rope. That's what the cable's called, is a haul rope. There's nothing holding that on. And for your information out there too, a chairlift chair is not fastened to the haul rope by anything other than the braids in the cable. It's all braided together, and it's got a little fork that goes through the braids, and that tension is stronger than a weld, believe it or not. How about that? There's some information for you for today in case you didn't know. So I know what it's like. So this guy's up there, and he's going through his whole thing, about the water bottles and taking shoes and belt, and if you have a laptop, you need to remove it from the bag and have it separate in its own container, and, just the whole, the shit that nobody pays attention to. And he's just yelling. And the line's backed up, and I've been listening to this fucking guy for like a half an hour, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ. So I'm at the point where I'm beginning to get a little surly. So I get up there, and I'm like next in line, and a couple of people back maybe. And I look at my, I said, excuse me, sir. I said, I'm just asking a question. I was like, but, you're standing there next to that Rubbermaid trash can there, and it's almost full of water bottles that you're having people throw away. And if you're concerned about them being explosives in the water bottles, then why would you have everybody discard them right there in a receptacle right next to you and all your coworkers and all these passengers? Like, and he kind of looked at me like he'd never thought of that before. Or maybe he had thought about it and he just was pissed off somebody said something. I said, and the other thing too, I said, if you think about it, if you were somebody that had the means to put some kind of substance in a bottle like that, and, and it was some kind of a device, I said, and if you were one of those people, I said, then you just have yourself a ticket. You go right through, you throw your water bottle in, you get on the plane, and you'd probably have a cell phone detonator or something on there, and you'd be on a plane out of there. You wouldn't even have to suicide yourself at that point, right? I think I'm being clever. And a bunch of people in the line, I said it just loud enough. People, I could hear it going down the line. People were all of a sudden thinking about this. That's how smart people are. You ask people in a line at an airport what kind of sense that makes to throw that water bottle in that trash can right there next to it. Number one, everybody's got a sense of self-preservation, right? Those agents, and they call them agents. That's what's even more funny. Like these guys are James Bond or something. Most of these dudes got that front butt going on. You know what I'm saying? The front butt, with a dude where they got that, women have it too, but they got that, that big ass, whatever you want to call it, the big old front butt, where they got their pants pulled up over it and the shirt tucked in, and you could turn them. If you could take a person with a front butt and you could just twist their torso around 180 degrees, they'd look just the same, kind of like Peter Griffin, right? Most of them at TSA got front butt. Not all of them, a lot of them, most of them. We're not talking about we're talking about, I mean, for the most part, people that might have a hard time working at hot dog on a stick. Just saying. I just looked for shits and giggles to see what was available in this state, and they've got positions all over. They're hiring, and they're starting at, I think it starts at $18.59 an hour, and they're just desperate, it looks like. And it says after 6 months it bumps it up to, I mean, just for a person just telling people to throw a water bottle in a thing, you know, it can get you up to like $26 an hour. That job's got to suck. I mean, it can't be fun. I mean, I can see how it might be okay working in a little airport like the one here, but I mean, if you're in a big ass, huge place, I mean, and then you go up and you count, 20 or 30 of them in some of the bigger places, and they'll have 1 or 2 checkpoints open, and that's it. Like Seattle, I've never seen more than that open, and that line will go all the way down the goddamn hallway, and you'll go up, and they're sitting there, they're drinking soda. These people are just sitting there hanging out, talking, yucking it up, talking about Battlestar Galactica from the night before, or American Idol, or whatever the fuck they watched. And you're like, everybody could be through here by now if you just, I mean, what's it take? You put a motherfucker over there on that other one, you open the goddamn thing up, and he sits down on the chair, and he runs the conveyor belt and sits there and looks, I mean, monotonous, yeah. Difficult, maybe at times, And then the guy that stressed it, he's the town crier up there yelling about the water bottles and shit. And he's not even, I don't know if he's ever even thought about that. And it's like, wait. Why am I having these people throw the water bottles in the trash can right next to me if I'm worried about explosives? And why is that? Why the water bottles? All you'd have to do is just tell somebody to take a drink of it in front of you. Don't you think? I mean, if there's explosive in there, somebody probably ain't going to take a drink out of it. Just say, take a drink of that for me. Let them keep stepping. I mean, can you imagine how many water bottles are thrown away out of a major hub airport? Like, think about Atlanta, Georgia. That's a big airport. That's the longest security line I've ever been in my life. That thing is absolutely horrendous. I mean, I don't ever want to fly in there again just because of that fucking security line. I mean, you get through one portion of it, you think you're through? No. You just get up and now you're just seeing the start of the damn thing. I mean, it is insanity. They got like a chop house right there when you go in. You eat there, and you see the line start backing up. You're like, oh shit, we better get up there and get in line. And I mean, that thing goes forever. Ridiculous. So think about the amount of water bottles that airport I mean, hopefully I don't know what portion of a water bottle gets recycled. I know that like in San Francisco, I don't think you can even drink bottled water. I don't think they sell it anymore there. Which is, I mean, where are you going to put it? But it's crazy because, I mean, San Francisco is on top of a few things. Like they were one of the first cities to get rid of that, which I think was a great call. I mean, I carry these, well, actually, this is one from Walmart. $10. This thing keeps ice colder, keeps coffee warmer for longer than a $50 Yeti does. So if you're going to buy a Yeti, all you're doing is buying the cup for the name. You go get one of those. It's Ozark Trail at Walmart. I think I paid $9.99 for a couple of those. And the reason I did that, because I was watching like a consumer report test they did. Anyway, that's beside the point. But like San Francisco, I mean, they're not going to have that water bottle problem, but bigger airports, I mean, can you imagine you think about how many people fly in and out of LAX or Hartsfield-Jackson or JFK or, O'Hare or Midway in a day. Holy Jesus. It's a lot of water bottles. I don't even know how they go about recycling them things either. A lot of money too. I mean, I remember the first time, oh God, back in the day, driving from Boise to Seattle. We stopped down in the middle of somewhere in Oregon, Pendleton or something, to fuel up. You know, back when gas was like $1.19 a gallon. Those were the days. I remember when it hit like $2 and I just about lost my mind. But the girlfriend goes in, comes out, she had this bottle, you know. Or like I go in and pay. This was back before you even had to prepay. So I'm filling the car up. I go in, she's got her bottle of water or whatever. I'm like, what in the hell is that? She's like, what's my bottle of water? I'm like, my bottle, what? I'm paying for a bottle of water? I'm like, they got a sink over there. They got a drinking fountain over there. I'm like, and we both, you know, played on, we were both athletes. She played volleyball, I played baseball. So we, you know, they'd give you these Gatorade, you know, the little Gatorade squeeze bottles. I mean, I had a ton of them. So I always carried around with me. I mean, it was like this Avion shit. And, I mean, this is back in the mid-90s. It was like, I don't remember, a couple bucks or something. I was like, I was so pissed. I was like, what the fuck am I paying for? I just couldn't even believe it. I'd never even heard of such a thing, you know? And like Dasani or any of those other, I mean, what's the other one? Aquafina. It's just tap water. I mean, it's like they shoot it through a Brita filter or whatever, you know, it's not, and then they take, you know, like the Fiji water and they go and you destroy a beautiful island, stealing their water, you know. They've done the same thing, and Nestle's done the same thing in this country. Bottled water is the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard of in my life. But if they weren't poisoning the water, I don't think Flint, Michigan, I don't think they've ever got right there. But that's beside the point. Again, I digress. I'm easily sidetracked. Start talking about the water thing, and it gets me going in a different direction. So the guy, I mentioned the water thing. He kind of gives me this look, and then I have to push it. You know me, I got to push it and say something else. And so I won myself a trip to the side room, you know, and then I'm in there. And I'm early for the flight anyway. So I'm like, okay. Everybody who know I've been to, you know, federal prison. I'm numb to somebody looking at my butt. Okay. I've had my butthole stared at, I don't know how many times, by dudes, because you get strip searched all the time and you got to do this, you know. So the guy comes in, and the guy, he doesn't have the, you know, he's not wearing the blue button, you know, he's got like, you know, he's wearing a sport jacket, look, you know, like Men's Warehouse shit, nothing fancy, you know, I mean, he's, you know, he's not on that kind of salary. He ain't wearing no fucking Armani 3-piece suit, you know, he's Men's Warehouse, you know, and he's, you know, trying to, you know, act intimidating. I said, look, man, I don't know what you're trying to do. I was like, I was just making a common sense statement, you know, I mean, it seems to me, if you all haven't thought of this and some dumbass like me thinks of it, that maybe you guys need to, you know, like get your program together. And I said, if you think you're going to sit here and threaten me with like looking up my ass, I said, then go ahead. I said, I've been in federal prison and it's nothing I'm not used to having to happen to me, you know, like you want to be, you know, and I used to give guys the guards in there shit about it too. Cause you'd have the guys that would work the visiting room, and like on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that visiting room is full. And every time you leave, there's a guy back there, and he's got to look up everybody's butt. He gets to know everybody real well. And I think I had 3 visits the whole time I was there, but I'd always laugh. I said, hey, it's a hell of a job you got, man. You sit there looking at big, goofy brown eyes all day. I mean, you know, these guys act like they're really something because they're a prison guard. And it's like, dude, all you do is look at dudes' buttholes all day, man. Guys wrinkled up balls and shit. I mean, sorry to be graphic, but, you know, this show ain't meant for kids. So anyway, after much ado, they cut me loose out of there, and I go on my merry way, and I'm just shaking my head, just like these guys. And what's it all for? It's just security theater. It's kabuki theater. It's all it is. It's just this the false feeling of some kind of security. I mean, I saw earlier there was a woman that was in her 80s, and she had used her Depends that she was wearing. They put her back in her room. They made her remove it because going through that machine, they couldn't see what was back there. She's 84 years old. There was another woman the same age, and she'd been traveling, and she had actually been doing a lecture at a college campus about the Holocaust. She was a Holocaust survivor that had made it through Auschwitz, and she said she felt more uncomfortable going through those stupid security lines and the fact that they were groping her and touching her, and than she did at Auschwitz. Now, how bad is that? They're touching your kids. They'll grope you, me. Doesn't matter, male, female, your kid. It doesn't matter. Now, they were acting like they were going to do something that one day with me. I've never had to pat down or nothing like that because I'm always ready to go. Like, I don't have anything that there's no reason. I am carrying I think I've gone through one time maybe when I accidentally had a pocket knife, and I was just like, gave it to the dude. I'm like, here, have a pocket knife, It was like a $60 fucking Columbia River knife and tool, The guy's like, what? I'm like, yeah, I'm not taking it back out there. I was like, you can have it. Whoa, okay, I don't know if you got to keep it or not. The other thing they've been doing too is they've been taking money. I read a story where there was a female that was with her daughter, and she was moving back to Tampa, and she went through with $43,000 in cash, and they took it from her. Now there's no charge, there's no crime. I mean, they say you're not supposed to fly with over $10,000. And I know there's been a few times where I've been close to that, but I always made sure. I just always heard that. And I'm not necessarily sure what the validity is to that, if that's actually a true statement or not. Maybe we should look that up. But they've done that. They've taken people's money, like people like this. She had her life savings. There was another story of a guy doing the same thing. He had taken everything out of the bank. He was moving. He'd been through some kind of a circumstance situation that just uprooted him and his family, and they were moving. They had to go. They were on the plane, and he had just taken his money. Now, one would like to think that you're going to go to the bank and you're going to get a cashier's check for something like that. Or you're going to plan on making a transfer. Either you transfer to another bank that has all these banks have brand. I don't know. I don't understand their reasoning. It doesn't make a lot of sense to do that, to take $43,000 on a plane. But again, some people don't know what's going on. She probably didn't know to take her shoes off too. Who knows? I don't know. And if you've been through a traumatic thing or whatever, maybe you're not thinking about little details like that. But let's just see how much cash you can carry. Let's see, person carry on a domestic. Let's just call it a domestic flight. I know you like my typing skills. I'm fast like that. Wicked fast. Hunt and peck. All right, here we go. Can they seize cash at the airport for civil asset forfeiture? Now, I would think if they... Okay, here we go. This is from airsafe.com. And they've got a whole thing that says how to fly with cash. If you're flying with a large amount of cash, here, I'll just pull this up so you guys can see it. And there goes the camera. All right. Let me open this up a little bit here. Expand. I don't know if you can read that or not. It says if you're flying with a large amount of cash or other monetary instruments like traveler's checks, money orders, bearer bonds, you should take common sense to protect yourself from unwanted attention, but you should also be aware of what legal issues you may have to address. What you'll have to do will depend on what country you're in or whether you're traveling internationally. And I can bring up a story about a guy that I was hemmed up with, who's out now, and he came into the country with it was like 200 million or something like that. That fleeing from a certain country that's at war right now. Right, travel within the United States. If you're on a domestic flight in the U.S., there's no limit to the amount of cash or monetary instruments that you can carry. However, the TSA may ask a passenger who's carrying a large sum of cash to account for the money. If the TSA suspects that the money is related to some kind of criminal activity, such as drug trafficking or money laundering, they may turn the issue over to a law enforcement agency. Now, TSA has no law enforcement powers. They're not even supposed to be looking for drugs. Okay? Excuse me. There's only been a couple of instances, like in Denver, when they first legalized marijuana for recreational purposes, that somebody even had the police called to show up, where they tried to go through with like a pound of weed or something. But they're not, even the dogs. Okay, I'm going to tell everybody this. I'm going to give you a little tip in case you're somebody that flies around and tries to sneak things around. Excuse me. The dogs are bought. They're for explosives. They're not drug dogs. So a dog either has to be trained for one or the other. They're not, it doesn't reciprocate. A narcotics canine is not an explosives canine. Just so you know, for those of you out there that, got a green thumb or whatever, and you're trying to go through there and you see the dog, you don't need to shit your pants, because the dog isn't going to even, you're just going to go by and just smile at the guy, because that's not what they're there to do. And TSA is not there to, they're not even supposed to look for narcotics. Now, if you have a large amount, yeah. So what they've done, in a sense, is they've taken money from people. So then what you have to go through to get your money back, it can be drawn out. Like the woman I'm talking about with the 43 grand that was going to Tampa. I mean, I think they said it took her like 8 months to get her money. That was all the money she had. For example, it says if a family of 5 is flying together and they have $11,000 between them, they're obligated to report these amounts. Passengers also required to report their non-U.S. cash or currency if the equivalent value in U.S. dollars is over $10,000. So there's no limits, but securities or stocks in bearer form that are valued at 10 grand or more must report the amount that they're carrying to U.S. customs officials. So that means if you're flying on a domestic flight, then you have to go to customs apparently and tell them that you have more than, over $10,000. Now I wonder what if you have $9,999? I've done that before. But that was, those were different times. In leaving the U.S. with large amounts of currency, gold, or other valuables, you should review the customs requirements of your destination country before you fly. Rules and restrictions on traveling with money will vary by country around the world. Be sure to check those laws and regulations, and if necessary, make alternative plans. And you really want to be careful if you're traveling internationally. Excuse me. I mean, like you don't want to go down to like you don't want to fly into like San Juan, Puerto Rico with 15 grand cash on you. Probably not a good call. Probably don't want to fly into Brazil with something like that, or Oh, let's see. Yeah, and it says you don't ever want to put that stuff in a check bag either. But then there's that saying you want to keep it out of public view, but if you got to go and declare it or whatever, I mean, it's obviously going to be an issue. Just don't do that. I mean, I'd say, there's no law against it. I mean, they're trying to get rid of cash any way they can anyhow. But there's really no reason to do that regardless. I mean, you're just asking for a hard time. And whether or not it's right or wrong, you're still asking for a hard time. I mean, maybe that's what you're into. Maybe you got enough money that you're trying to, I mean, they got a whole how to fly with cash thing here. That's, I don't know. I just get I don't see why anybody needs to do that anyhow. I mean, I do kind of, but I mean, I guess if you're trying not, I don't know. I mean, really, one would think that, but I don't understand how the TSA is, they're not supposed to be looking for narcotics, but yet they can sit there and question you about it. If they suspect you of narcotics trafficking, then you got to explain it to them. I mean, I imagine that woman with all that $43,000, and that was all the money she had, and they were, she had to have been fairly upset. I mean, I can't even. I mean, that's. I mean, if that's all the money, it's like you don't got anything. It's just that it doesn't make much sense. But then again, I don't feel like it's anybody's fucking business either. I mean, if you haven't been accused of a crime, if you're not on a watch list, if you're not some kind of suspected, drug dealer or bank robber or something like that, then, I mean, what right is it of anybody to question it? So it comes down to, there's like a whole ethical thing to that, It's like, are we talking Fourth Amendment violations here? Because I feel like that's what that is. But then we've given up our rights. That's the other thing, We have voluntarily, because we were scared, because we were terrified, we sacrificed a lot after September 11th as a country. We allowed the Patriot Act to go through again. I mean, because we were scared. I mean, scared people do stupid shit. I mean, you wonder why a whole herd of sheep has one dog. I mean, you watch, it's herd behavior. Plain and simple. It's herd behavior. We're going to do what if everybody in majority, that there's your democracy, what we were talking about the other day. There's your democracy. The masses are asses. And so if everybody's doing it and you feel like it's not right, but everybody's doing it, and you're going to catch a bunch of shit for not doing for not following in line, you're going to be like, well, I don't really agree with this, but I'm going to do it anyways because I don't want to buck. We need more bucking. Quite honestly, we need more bucking. We need people like Elon Musk, who's doing what he's doing right now. And look what he's doing. It's a fundamental of the foundation of this country is the right to free speech. If you don't have that, you don't have anything. You can talk Second Amendment, this and all that, all you want, but if you can't even speak, I mean, what's the definition of fascism? You know what? The establishment controls. Why did they burn books? Why did the Nazis burn books? Why did Mussolini do the same thing? If you're not allowed to read, write, and say the things that you feel you need to say, and now granted, I think that there's also a line that you can cross. I mean, I don't feel like, if you're saying things that are inciting violence, I don't think that that's right. And I think that, somebody should shut you up. But I also think that if people are stupid enough to listen to somebody that's going to incite violence, then I don't know. That's the gray area there. I mean, if you're stupid enough to listen to somebody, tell you to go enact violence on somebody. I mean, like for example, right after 9/11, and I saw this happen with a lot of people that I knew. And I had a friend in Reno that, excuse me, his parents were from India, and he was the firstborn of their family in the United States. And of course they owned hotels. And so we're sitting there at the Breakaway, this bar up by the University of Nevada one night, and it's getting late. I realize it's late because the strippers start coming in, and when they get off shift, then you go, oh shit, it's getting late. And he got a phone call and he stepped up to go outside. And I mean, the breakaway is not, I mean, it's right across, literally across the street from the campus. They've got campus police there. It's really not, it's not a bad neighborhood. It's not, there's not, I mean, there's really nothing to be concerned with. And we're sitting there and our buddy's gone for a while. And I look at my friend, I'm like, hey, where's, you know, I'm not going to say his name, but where's homeboy at, you know? And my buddy, you know, he's over there on one of those machines just dumping, he's dumping money in. And so I'm like, this ain't right. He just went out to take a phone call. It's been like 45 minutes, you know. I'm like, what the fuck? So I get up and I go outside and he's laying out there and I mean, he's got missing teeth. I mean, his face is all smashed up, just beat to a pulp. Can't even hardly talk. I'm like, dude, what the I run in. I left my phone sitting there at the bar. Running, I grab my phone and I'm yelling at my buddy. I'm like, dude, we got to get this dude, some help. And he's like, what? I'm like, get your ass out here. I'm dialing 911, getting out there. I'm trying not to move him because I don't know what's happened to him. I'm trying to get a story from him. And he's telling me that it was like a truckload of white dudes pulled up and because he was dark skinned or whatever. They started calling him a terrorist and they got out and they just beat the fucking shit out of him. Now, what inside of that's just ignorance. So you got people like that, I suppose, that are going to act like that, And it was very close to, it was not too long after 9/11. It was in that same time frame that my initial story about flying down there came up, So I don't know. But I mean, there wasn't anybody during that whole time period. I mean, you heard a lot of people talking a lot of crazy shit like, we should just go over there and just carpet bomb it and call it USA gas, and it's like, dude, come on, But look what we ended up doing. 1 million Iraqi people died. 1 million innocent people in a country that had nothing to do. We had 3,000 people die here, tragically. Iraq got pulverized. Beautiful, ancient cities. Think of all the history in a city like Mosul that just got flattened. 1 million people dead. They didn't do anything. Okay, we found Saddam Hussein in a spider box. Was Saddam Hussein worth 1 million people? He wasn't going to live that much longer anyhow. Now, the two boys of his, I would argue that those two, they should, those guys could go away. I've heard about those two. I think they were worse than the old man. But I mean, even a dictator's only going to live so long. Look what we did to Libya. Look at Libya. Open air slave trade. Because Gaddafi wanted to switch from the petrodollar and go to an actual gold-backed currency. And that's what happens. Sounds like somebody needs some freedom. I mean, we're looking at it right now. Russia's saying, hey, you want your oil? You got to pay us in rubles now. It's not on the petrodollar anymore. And we're weak. We're weak. We are weak. Look how weak we are. We let organizations like the TSA control us, tell us what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. Do you honestly think in 1 million years, do you think that somebody would be able to get on a commercial airliner and do the same thing that those guys did back then and get away with it? Not while I'm on a plane. I'm going to bring you a little rinky-dinky little friggin' yeah, you might cut me up, but guess what? Not happening. And here's, okay, so here, let's talk about another hypothetical, because I'm always doing this, okay? So after the whole 9/11 thing happened, and they decided they're going to lock, the cockpit. Okay, that's a good idea. Then there's talk about putting some kind of an armed individual on the plane. Not a good idea. Something happens with a firearm goes through the sidewall of the plane and the fuselage, and you're gonna have problems, big time problems. Not a good idea. That's, if you ever wonder why prison guards don't have fucking firearms, there's your reason. I mean, trust me, inmates are 50. I mean, come on. I mean, you'd be appalled at the things I tell you we could come up with in there. You know, I mean, that's why. So that's out the window. Okay. So then they decide to implement the TSA. Now, here was my initial thought, and I have brought this forth I don't know how many times, and it just seemed, maybe I'm screwed up here, but here's my thought on the whole thing, right? Here's what solves the whole issue. Every single commercial airliner that we have in this country, and I would say that this would be a good thing for maybe NATO to push. NATO, you want to do something good, maybe this would be it. You put an override switch in the cockpit, right? Just like a panic switch at a bank, right? Just something happens, you have a pilot, you have a co-pilot, okay? You've got the doors locked already. So, I mean, if one of them has to get up and use the restroom, there's always a flight attendant standing there at the door. They let him out. They close the door right behind him. So even at that point in time, say they get the guy gets out and say somebody makes a bum rush at the flight attendant and manages to weasel their way in there, okay? You still got the pilot. I mean, all he does, flip the switch. Beep, beep, beep. Every air control tower in the United States has a flight simulator. You put a flight simulator. Okay, we can send billions of dollars in all this military equipment all around the world. We can't put a flight simulator at every major hub airport. And you have an on-call pilot. That's in, you always have an on-call pilot. A guy that's got a few days, whatever. I mean, at that point, even if he's drunk, you bring him in, that switch overrides all the controls on that plane. So now they can't even fly that thing. It's out of their hands. It's out of their control. They can't do anything with that plane. It's in the hands of the simulator on the ground. And you have a pilot that, even if the guy is an hour away and that switch is flipped, it flips it on autopilot, and that plane just keeps going on the same trajectory that it was going. So even if it overshoots the destination or whatever, it just keeps going. You got air traffic control. You got readings on the thing. You can tell other flights. You can negotiate around that. So now what do you have? You say you got somebody that got in there. Okay, they managed to get in. The plane's overridden. It can't be negotiated from the air. You get old, Bob from where, guy comes in his Corvette or whatever, Top Gun, they've got a simulator either at the airport or up in the flight control. I mean, it doesn't take much, but I mean, a flight simulator is not that big. You could put one in many places. Airports are fairly good size. Wouldn't take much. They're no bigger than one of those stupid scanners. Guy comes in, sits down, maybe tries to make contact with the pilot, see how things are going up there. Who knows? Maybe maybe something's happened. Who knows? But he brings the flight down, lands it, looks on you look on the radar, look at where they're located. You find the closest place where you can land that thing. You call law enforcement, you call the fire department, you call ambulances, you call SWAT, whatever you need to call. You land that thing. What are they going to do? There's no end game at that point. You don't have. The whole idea of hijacking a plane is to have that as your instrument of negotiation, or your instrument of, like what they did in 2001. But if you can't do that, then is that a bad idea? I've been saying this for years. I've been saying this for 21 years now. And I've brought it up to people I know in the airline business and everything else. I don't know. I don't think it's a bad idea. Maybe somebody will hear that and implement it. To me, that's common sense. Because for the cost of, you put one in Seattle, you put one in San Francisco, you put one in LA, you put one in Vegas, Denver, Minneapolis, and you put one in Billings, spaced out, to where you can get somebody in there to, feasibly get, and why not do it, wouldn't other countries want to implement the same thing? What do you think would have happened to that Malaysian flight that nobody knows? They now say they think they know what happened to it. I think they've found parts of it. I mean, that to me seems like pretty common sense. And up before 9/11, there had been hijackings of planes. Why didn't somebody think about doing that? It's not a difficult concept. I mean, even if you got the guy in the air traffic control, I mean, you know, somebody's better than a terrorist up there behind the, you know, sitting there taking control of the thing. I mean, it's just a switch. Once it's flipped, it's done. There's no, you know, it's a point of no return. You can't flip it back. You can't, you know. I mean, you got the thing. I mean, who's going to be able to, you know, get in there and take care of the wiring or whatever to override it? You just make sure that it's a, you know, once that thing's flipped, that's it. It's done. Can't reverse it. I mean, and nothing like this is even, I mean, like I said, the only 2 times anything like this has even come close to happen was that dipshit with his shoe and then the other guy with his underwear or whatever the fuck it was. A couple of real screwheads. But we've managed to give away so much over just the feeling of being secure. Well, guess what? This is life. This is life. You're not secure. Anything can happen at any point in time. Anything. Look at the things that you see stories about things that happen to people that it's just like, how shit happens out of nowhere. I mean, it happened to me. It changed my whole, in a matter of 30 minutes, my life turned into a fucking goddamn movie. All I did was go up to a store and get some beer and come back to a hotel, and all of a sudden my life, and then everything changed over something completely that I didn't foresee happening, you know? And it can get worse than that very easily. Like I tell people, you could be in there at Walmart sitting there looking at dates on milk jugs, and you never know what kind of a crazy meathead's going to come in and, you know, rounds start flying, and you're sitting there looking at a date trying to find the one furthest out for expiration on it, and you're, you know, swapping milk jugs around. All of a sudden you catch one in the back of the head and the lights out. It can happen to anybody at any time. Driving down the road. Driving down the road. I mean, I had, you know, this was a number of years back. I'm driving towards Powell, Wyoming. Driving out by Beck Lake. And I mean, it just happened to be some tall grass that summer. And there was a deer that, you know, you have a lake and banks down a lake. And I mean, the phone rings. I pick it up. I don't even really take my eyes. I just grab the phone, hit, you know. In that time, a deer runs up right in front of my truck, and I smashed it. Luckily, I drive fairly big-sized trucks, and, you know, I pulled off thinking I was going to have to go drag a dead deer carcass off the side of the road, and I got out, and my license plate was bent a little bit, and the deer was mush. There was nothing even left, and I was like, I don't have a snow shovel, and, I mean, it's like, I don't know, the seagulls will get it or whatever, the fucking ravens. Just got back in and drove away. But I mean, just like that though. I mean, if it had been a buffalo, it would probably been different. But, you know, I've probably seen a buffalo down by the lake. But I'm just saying, you know, things will wheel on you real quick. So, I mean, to give away all that you have as far as your freedoms go, because you're so scared of some kind of a anomaly of an event repeating itself, that's not gonna ever happen again. I mean, trust me, it's not. Because there's guys out there that still, even though a lot of men have turned into just straight up, just worthless. I mean, I see a lot of guys out here during the summertime that have capri pants on. That's all I'm saying. Carrying man purses around, wearing those Lisa Loeb and the 9 Stories, you know, cat-eye glass, you know, I mean, like that, you know, boat shoes, capri pants, fanny packs, Or the worst is the dude that you see with the papoose. You know what I'm talking about? The harness. At least put the thing on, put the kid on your back. I mean, you get walking around with a little fat head baby. You're sitting there eating mushy shit and slobbering all over you and sneezing on you and blowing snot bubbles and drooling and burping up. You see the guy walk. I mean, hey man, hey, that's great. Carry the kid for your wife. Whatever. Take turns carrying the kid. Get a fucking stroll. You see them dudes walking around and they got a fanny pack and they got a papoose on and that kid's spitting up in their face. 3 other ones walking around, yelling and screaming, and the wife yelling at him, and he's trying to wipe his face off, and he's got spit and throw up all over him. Come on, dude. There's a better way, man. There's a better way. Jesus Christ. Go to Ace Hardware and get a fucking wheelbarrow. Throw that thing in a fucking wheelbarrow, man. Kid like it probably more than he would riding around that papoose looking at your face. Sitting there in your capri pants and your papoose and your fanny pack and man purse. You probably got baby wipes in your man purse too. Ugh. Good Lord. Your boat shoes. Zombie apocalypse hits. I guess the way you look at it is, those people are going to be lunch meat. Hate to say it. We're all going to be lunch meat for something someday. Whether it's fucking worms and bacteria or carry on. I think I'd rather have that. I think I'd rather just go out in the middle of nowhere and let the ravens and the scavengers go to town, whatever. I mean, our body's just a car. It's just, that's all we're doing is driving around in a rental car. That's all this all is. It's just a rental car. I mean, it has to be turned in at some point in time. Right? I mean, what did Hunter Thompson say about that? He had a great quote, and I'm going to see if I can look it up. I mean, he had a lot of great quotes, don't get me wrong. But his was like, to the effect of, you buy the ticket, you take the ride. And he's like, take that car and turn it in just, without another mile that it can go. And he also said, I hate to advocate drugs, alcohol, violence, or insanity to anyone, but they've always worked for me. True, true, true. He's got so many quotes. What an amazing guy. There's nobody like him. There'll never be, what they say was, too weird to live, too strange to die. He loved explosions. Some may live, but the crazy never die. Some may never live, but the crazy never die. I like that one. Sex without love is as hollow and ridiculous as love without sex. Freedom is something that dies unless it's used. Now that's a good one right there. I like that. That's one That's a good one. Freedom is something that dies unless it's used. That's great. And then another one I like is as long as I'm learning something, I figure I'm okay. It's a decent day, and that's what I always say every day. I say I tell my son this too. I said, learn something every day. Learn something. I don't care how big or how small it is. Learn something. Whether it's how to wire something, whether it's how to use something. I mean, this is what I've had to learn is all this stuff with the computer stuff. It's technology. I mean, it's been, I'm barely even, I'm lucky that I'm able to do this, Oh, I'm just trying to find this quote of his. This is a good one too. We were all alone, born alone, die alone, and in spite of true romance magazines, we shall all someday look back on our lives and see that in spite of our company, we were alone the whole way. I do not say lonely, at least not all the time, but essentially and finally alone. This is what makes your self-respect so important, and I don't see how you can respect yourself if you must look in the hearts and minds of others for your happiness. Now that's one I've never read, and I've said things that are, fairly close to that. Because I feel that way. I don't need anybody around. Just the 3.2 listeners that I've got out there. I need you guys. I need you now. Oh, let's see what we got here. Anyway, what I've compared it to is like, when we go out, it's like you're just taking the rental car back. Have you guys seen Jackass? Like I think it's Jackass, where they rent the car and just take it out and they bring it back and it's just trashed. And they're like, The guy's flipping out. What the hell? Yeah, it goes along the same lines where he says, nobody can really know the edge unless you've gone over it. Yes, life should not be a journey to the grave with the intention of arriving safely in a pretty and well-preserved body, but rather to skid in broadside in a cloud of smoke, thoroughly used up, totally worn out, and loudly proclaiming, "Wow, what a ride." Now, is that what a plane trip was like with TSA and all that? Well, at least we're safe. You think, but you're not. That's the thing, you know what I mean? If somebody's set on doing something, they're going to figure out a way to do it. You're going to have sociopaths and psychopaths out there. And I can tell you this as well. If this country wasn't so busy meddling in the affairs of other countries, then chances are there'd be far less people that would dislike this country. Just saying. How do you think men end up becoming parts of organizations like Al Qaeda or ISIS? I've said this over and over too. It's when a guy gets up in the morning and goes to his shop. He's a baker, or he's got a whatever business the guy, whatever he's doing, whatever job. Leaves wife, small children in his apartment. You're talking about a big, heavily populated, Middle Eastern city. Goes to work. Comes home. He walks because it's close. Or rides a bike because he can't afford a car. No place to park anyways. Comes around the corner, sees it, he's walking, he sees a plume of smoke. Thinking, like, that's pretty, no, gets closer, realizes, walks around the corner, there's this whole fucking apartment building in rubble. Thinking that maybe his wife and kids would have gone out to the store or something, comes back to nothing. And then you have, radicalized people, that are deaf to America. Come on. If that's me in that situation, in that situation, you got nothing left. Your home's gone, your family's gone, everything you care and love is gone. And you know who's responsible. I'm not saying that, the things that these people do, I'm not justifying it one little bit. But what I am saying is that you can draw the parallels of how somebody could possibly get to the point of doing something like that. There's nothing more dangerous than a man that has nothing to lose. And that's a true statement. When you're talking about somebody who's got nothing to lose, those are the most dangerous people you can run into. And a guy that's got a life sentence, that dude doesn't, you don't want to mess with that dude. He doesn't care about you. He doesn't care less. And he doesn't care about his consequences because all his consequences are already gone. He's got it. He's living it. He's living his consequence, and it doesn't get worse unless he catches a death rap. And sometimes those cats want to catch that death sentence, get him out, just get it over with. The idea of sitting in one of those places for your entire days, that's not living either, But that's also consequences. But when you haven't done anything and you lose it all, and you can't tell me that there's not a lot of people a lot of guys that were good men that lost everything because of our drones, our bombs. Like I said, that was the one standout moment for me in the whole Trump presidency, was when he decided not to go in and take out those three, when we had a drone over Iranian airspace. We were the ones out of line. Somebody shoots it down. We think we have intelligence on where the three guys are. And Trump asked how many people are going to die if we'd go in there and take this building out where they're at. And it said like 97. And he said, no. Democrats lost their mind. They're supposed to be the party of peace, right? They're the ones that said, Trump gets elected, he's going to lead us into World War III. Well, look where we're at now. Look where we're at. You tell me this jackass hasn't almost put us there. Now, I don't mean to get off on all this stuff, but it's all relative, and it all comes back to itself, and we've allowed these things to happen because of fear. Because of fear, because we want to be secure. We would trade away our freedoms to be secure. And I've talked to people that are so ignorant that they just think TSA is the greatest thing in the world. I've always thought it's just been an absolute joke. And it is a joke. They are a joke. They're crazy because as long as there's men out there, that shit will never happen again. It would never happen on a plane I'm on. And I know a bunch of dudes that it would never happen if they're on a plane. And it might not be every man on the plane, but I guarantee there's a couple fucking cowboys on, at least on every plane, that are not going to allow that to happen. Because we remember that day. And you know, I don't like that, I never forget or anything like that, but that is something that it's, you know, I'm not going to use that as a slogan for any reason, but that is something that I'll never forget. And any of you that are the same age, any of you that, you know, were of a certain age on that day, it's one of those things you're just not going to ever forget it. It's going to be something that'll never go away. I mean, we went to work that day, but I mean, we were all just crowded around the radio, and I mean, everybody was just kind of in a trance. Nobody had ever seen anything like that. And I talked to my dad about it a while back, and I said, yeah, that must have been comparable to, you know, to JFK. And he, you know, he remembered the day being in school when that happened. And you talk to anybody that was alive during that period of time, and that's one of those things that they can tell you exactly where they were at when they heard the news. And news didn't travel as fast, you know. News didn't travel as fast in 2001 as it does now. I mean, now everything's just boom, boom, boom. It's out there. It happens. Everybody's got a device. I mean, for any of you out there that grew up in the 80s and shit, you remember like as kids when we used to talk about, you know, the concept that, hey, someday we're going to have a little device and we can like look at each other on it and talk to each other. And you'd go, wow. And you'd sit there and think, you know, because at home, all you had was the phone with the big long spiral cord on it and the rotary. And now look what we got. You know, what's it going to be next? You got Musk with his Neuralink. And hopefully, you know, I mean, hopefully he does, something's got to happen with the way that everything's being censored too. I mean, the only way that free speech works is that it's free speech. People can say what they want to say. It's words. It's words, people. It's words. And if it's that bad a speech, then guess what? It's called diction. It's called having the mental capacity to combat bad speech with better speech. That's how you shut bad speech down. You don't sit there and worry about, oh, somebody's going to get upset. Hey, if it makes you upset, then you go back at that individual and you approach it. I mean, you look at a guy like Daryl Davis. You know how many Klan members, you know, hoods he's got? His black man goes, he had the balls to go to fucking Klan meetings. And he changed the head of the head of the Klan. Gave him his fucking hood and his robe. Because he had the balls to stand up against what he was saying. And look what happened now with that. A great benefit came from it. That man was, who knows what kind of evil he had carried out prior to that, or what kind of hate and evil was in his heart. But look at what one brave man who was a black man willing to go to Klan meetings. I tell you what, I got nothing but love and respect for that dude, because that takes some big stone cojones to do that. You know what I'm saying? But that's how things change. Not by sniveling and whining and crying and yelling at the sky. The sky ain't going to help you. You know? You can yell at it all you want. Or you can go out and talk to people like Daryl Davis did. And I would tell you right now, if any of you have the inclination, I would look him up and check his story out, because it's a really incredible story. And I would love to talk to that man someday, because like I said, I got nothing but admiration and respect for him. Not only is he a fantastic musician, but he's just a brave individual you think about that. There's pictures of him, a picture of him. He's an incredible story, man. Really. You want to talk about a story? Just look this man up. Let's see if I can pull up a picture here. But this dude, these guys have renounced the Klan because of him, and they've given him the hood and the robe and changed their thoughts about all of it. I don't know. To me, that seems like the way to go. It seems like we stand. If you got something that look at this. He's sitting there shaking hands with, a Klan member. And the first time, he was playing a gig out I think he was in Virginia, and he went out there and, he went in this bar and found out it's a crazy story. Anyway, look him up, Daryl Davis, D-A-R-Y-L, Davis. He's been on Rogan's show. And he goes out there and he talks to these people, even though they hate him. What better example is there than that? Of a way to handle. You want to talk about bad speech? Bad speech doesn't get much worse than the fucking Klan. And this guy has had the balls to go in there and change people's trajectory of their lives. Change them from, being a hate-filled person that, you're talking about people that, you're a product of your environment too. Everybody's got a choice, but if you're a radish and you can grow up in a garden with a bunch of other radishes, you're going to be a radish head, right? Might take an onion to change your mind. I don't know. But what we shouldn't be, I'm just going to give a little example here. We shouldn't be this one here. What good is that? I'm just saying. I think I'd be more inclined to be. I think in the face of adversity, I think I'd be more inclined to be like Daryl Davis. I'd encourage everybody to be more like him. That's an amazing human being right there. Nothing but respect for him. So on that note, we're going to walk out of here on a high note. With Daryl Davis, I would encourage you guys to, anybody out there that hears this, look the man up. Check out his story. It's pretty incredible. It really is. And you can find, hopefully they didn't take that episode of Rogan down, because that was one of Rogan's better episodes. Really incredible stuff. So on that note, the way we end it is we're going to, just like we always do, from the Mike Files, 52 miles east of Yellowstone Park. I'm out. Be good or be good at it. In all things be kind, and do no harm. Much love.
I've been up all night trying to figure this out. I drank a half a bottle of whiskey, sat down on my couch. Couldn't believe what they were talking about when someone said they found you dead at your house. And how could this be true? I still needed you. I can't believe that I'll never see you. It must have been so bad I can't begin to even try to explain what you've been through. There's no way out, only a way through. You should have stayed here, I could have saved you. Well, I've been up all night trying to figure this out. I wrote a million different words to let you know how I felt. Nothing really sounds special enough, and they don't have the words to tell how it was. When you should have stayed here, I could have saved you. There's no mistake that we couldn't work through. Nobody hates you, they want you safe, dude. You left me all on my own, I can't replace you. There's no way out, only a way through. You should have stayed here, I could have saved you. I've been up all night trying to figure this out. I wrote a million different words to let you know how I felt. You should have stayed here, I could have saved you. I'm sorry, brother. I wish I could have done more. I miss you. I will always love you. You will always hold a space in my heart. This song